Hey, this is Andrew Aversa, and today I want to introduce what might be the most unique and experimental virtual instrument that we've created at Impact Soundworks. It's called the Sonic Forest. This is based on a one-of-a-kind physical instrument. It's basically a bunch of guitar strings attached to a box with a Kontakt mic in it. So when the strings are struck or bowed, you get a range of timbres, everything from very harmonic and pure tones to very dissonant and inharmonic things. And depending on where you strike the strings, the sound is very different, the front or the back, for example. So for this sample library, we recorded different articulations at various dynamics and round robins, kind of capturing the range of both the harmonic and the inharmonic sounds. And I'll play some of those now. These are just the basic articulations. By itself, this is a really lovely sound, and you would almost think that it's a mallet instrument, but it's actually a fork striking the strings. That's one of the more harmonic articulations. Let's check out via key switch the more inharmonic one. This is almost more of a sound design kind of hit as opposed to something really, really playable, even though it was recorded at different pitches. Then we have another more harmonic one. This is very, very pure. Here's another string being hit, and sort of like a variation on the first one. And then again, the inharmonic version. And the more pure version as well. In addition to those struck sounds, there's also the Bode Textures, both long and short. These have a really sort of stone-like or earthy quality, very much like our resonance library if you've used that. And there's also short bows too. And the tone changes from different parts of the keyboard to another because there are different strings being bowed, which have different thicknesses as well. So these sounds in and of themselves are pretty useful. They have sort of a mallet-like quality, the tapped ones, and then the bowed ones are very nice for textural things, especially if you put some delay and reverb on them. So, if we did this. Or going back to the struck one. The real magic of this instrument, though, is right here in the center. When you press plant, it captures the last played sample, that exact round robin and articulation and pitch that you played, and it spreads it across the keyboard. So for example, we have that nice bright sound there. We hit plants, and I'm going to turn down grow at first. Now that exact sample is all over the keyboard, tuned chromatically. And it's captured at the same dynamic that it was originally played at as well. This is pretty useful. You can modify this with the envelopes. There's an arpeggiator and a sequencer, much like the one in our show drum instrument. And you can apply effects to it, just like with the standard articulations. The real magic, though, is when you increase the grow knob. This introduces a sort of a granular delay effect that sustains infinitely and it evolves over time. All these other knobs change what's happening with the granular effect. If we turn down the volume knob at the top here, then we only hear the granular forest. And at this point, what I want to do is actually just change the knobs for a little while, and you can see and hear how the sound evolves, both by looking at the graphic in the middle and just by closing your eyes and listening. All of these knobs have a different effect on the granular sound. For example, Blossom, let's click this and actually see, Blossom creates pitched echoes, fifths, octaves, 19ths, and 24ths, which would be 2 octaves. If you alt-click, it will turn off the fifths and the 19ths. Things like Age and Flood add effects just to the granular delays. So, for example, Age adds an additional delay sound and some both dry and wet reverb signal, whereas Flood reduces the dry signal and introduces this beautiful convolution reverb. The great thing about this is that there are so many sonic possibilities, especially based on what sound you plant. Actually, I'll leave this up for now. We'll unplant the sound. Now we're just back to a mallet. Let's take a Bode sound instead. That sounds pretty cool. Let's plant it. And again, we can turn down the volume here and only hear the forest. You can combine both the dry signal and the wet signal to create some interesting textures and sounds, especially with the wither knob. When wither is all the way turned down, the sound will sustain infinitely. As you turn it up, it'll decay based on how long you've been holding the note. So let's take a nice, beautiful mallet sound. And under effects, we can turn on some delay and reverb for that specifically. Turn that up. If you hit the seed button, you can randomize all of these sort of granular forest parameters. Just to hear it better again, I'll turn down the source sound. Another beautiful thing about the sonic forest is that you can import your own samples. You can do this by opening up the instrument, going to the last groups, user sample dry, wet, and wet reverse. All you have to do is just drag the wave sample of your choice into Kontakt here. The default sample is just a sine wave, so if I unplant that and click on the user sample key switch, and this can be planted just like anything else. Even easier though, if you don't want to dig into Kontakt, you can go to the samples folder and just replace the sample labeled !user sample, and that will replace it in the instrument as well. The Sonic Forest is available now for Kontakt for only $20, and 25% of all of the sales are going to go to Fauna and Flora International, which was the first environmental conservation charity in the world, established over 100 years ago. And this charity, I think, is really appropriate given the nature of the instrument. And it's also one of the most transparent and effective environmental charities around. So if you want to support charity and you want to have a cool sound design instrument, then the Sonic Forest should give you a lot of joy. I'm going to close this out just by playing around with the different presets that we've created. And until next time, this is Andrew Aversa.